Mr. Walton, did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Pray to the technology gods.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting from New York, upstate near the Great Lakes, it's Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Roop, and we are live on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. It's Monday night, March the 22nd. It's midnight on the East Coast, and we're heading on into the 23rd. Hope you guys had a good equinox, and you celebrate this beautiful spring as it enters. It was a lovely day in Rochester, and after the death of winter up here, I can tell you, to have any day above 50 degrees is a badass day up here in the north. It really is, especially if the sun's a shining too along with it. So had a pretty cool day today. The phone lines are going to be open this entire show. If you guys want to call in, you can call in at 1-800-588-0335. That's toll free from the United States or Canada, 1-800-588-0335. If you want to join our chat room, you can go to fringe.fm, and you can also go to thefringe.fm/chat room. But there's a Discord link at fringe.fm if you want to sign up there as well. I want to thank our patrons for making the show happen. And if you want to support the show, you can go to lightingthevoid.com, sign up for our Patreon, make a one-time donation, grab an altar box. We're going to be working on some accessories for that magical altar box too for you guys. And all the people that got new shirts coming out, that's you too, Ripcord. I know you got a shirt coming. Yeah, I saw your message today. You got one coming. Y'all got to send me pictures. Like the last 30 orders that we've had in the shop, I know it takes a while. I got one picture from a guy, a really cool guy that I actually talked to on the phone, who's out in Florida, and he's a captain of a boat, right? He sent me his picture, but where's the rest of y'all's pictures? I got to show y'all off, all y'all beautiful void walkers out there. Make sure you send that stuff in. So tonight, it's Monday night, Moonday Night Madness. You know how we do this, right? So we usually just kind of kick the week off here. But the cool thing is this is a really special night because we have a special guest, the one and only Tony Merkel is here with us from the Confessionals. And I know a lot of you are big fans of the Confessionals podcast. If you've ever heard of that podcast, it's awesome. Like, I went back and listened to one that he told me to, and after I listened to that one, I had to sit up and listen to the rest of them. It's really cool, like Art Bell, old school style stuff, man. And Tony does a professional job with this podcast, and he's coming to the Fringe FM. If you hadn't noticed, the Confessionals is on the Fringe FM, and also we're going to be talking about his new show, Rage Against Dystopia, and this is kind of where Tony's going to let loose and let people have it. And the first show, I've heard the demo of it, because we all do like demos and stuff. And we try to keep it professional around here, But I'm excited about it. It's going to air tomorrow night at I believe 5 p.m. Pacific. Now, if that time changes, I'm going to blast it everywhere first thing tomorrow. So we're probably going to have Merkel back to back. So you need to go to his website to check it out for reference. Right now, you can go to the confessionalspodcast.com. The guy's like living the dream, man. He's got his wife, Lindsay Merkel's associate producer, the content manager and writer. He's got artists. He's got a whole team of people behind it. And you can tell too, because the show's really good. And Tony, man, thanks for coming on the broadcast. It's good to have you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
I'm impressed, man, by you. You're like living the dream. You're living my dream for real. You know that, right? Like after we've talked on the phone a couple of times, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy's living my dream. I kind of want you to get started. Can you tell me, before we get into any strange, weird stories, talk about your new show, man, just as an inspirational thing for new podcasters and people that are just trying to create stuff. Tell us about your story, man, your ride into podcasting and how you became successful doing what you do.
Yeah. So man, what a ride. I would start out by just saying that there was plenty of days when I started podcasting. It was one of those things where I had the idea, I'm an entrepreneur, and I've always wanted to just really kind of fly on my own. And I tried so many things in my 20s. I owned a cleaning company. I did Amway. I owned a car repair company. I did a lot of stuff, and nothing really kind of stuck with it. Nothing really stuck, I should say. And then the podcasting thing popped up on my radar, and I thought, I had some studio equipment just from back in the day when I used to mess around with music with guys in college, recording them. Nothing special. It was just literally a simple audio interface, and it was an M Audio Nova microphone, which I don't think they make anymore. And I was just, well, let me dust this stuff off and see what we can pull out. So I started podcasting, but I'm the kind of person that when I decide I'm going to do something, I go all in. And I was fortunate in the sense that me and my wife, we got married when we were 21. And we were married for 10 years before we decided to have kids. And I started the podcast 2 months later. She got pregnant. So I had a good full year of podcasting with no kids. And that year I would come home at night. I'd drive truck for a living. And then I'd come home at the end of the day, kiss the wife, eat some dinner quick, and then go up to our third bedroom where I had the studio made up. And I would work until, midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning on podcast stuff. And I didn't even know what I was doing. Like, I had no idea. I was just like, I just got to put myself in this room and, see if I can create something cool. And there was nights that I was working on trying to tweak audio, just little tiny, little things that you don't like about the show and you want to make it better. And then there was nights that I was trying to network and reach out to people. And you reach out to 100 people, you're lucky if you get 5 that respond back to you saying that they'll do something with you.
Yeah.
And it was a constant hustle and grind, man. And I just worked it like a full-time job. I mean, literally, I still do. But I mean, that first year and into the second year, I worked it like it was a full-time job. And there was those thoughts in your head that you're like, what if this just never pays off? Like, what if I'm just spinning my wheels here and it just doesn't take. And so I set these goals for myself. Like when I first started the podcast, I didn't really know what it would take to build a podcast. So I was like, so by December, I want to have at least 10,000 downloads a week on my shows. And that was aiming very high. And and it just took some time to get the ball rolling. But by having that big goal, I undershot it, but I probably got a lot further than I would have if I didn't have that big goal. And I just kind of rolled things over. But I did get caught up in the feeling sometimes of feeling like it just was not going to work out. And then you also deal with the I'm sure you've dealt with it, the trolls online and people who rag on you. And you sit there and I'm driving a truck down the road and I'm like, I don't need to deal with this. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. But thankfully, I just kept on pushing through, and things started coming together. The people that you said that work with me and stuff, all great people. And what the great thing is with them is I don't have to pay them. It's volunteer.
Right. Yeah.
So, so like it's a philosophy that I implemented early on, and all the people that work with me have the same philosophy. It's there's value to be exchanged that isn't money. So the people that are artists for the show, they get attention on their artwork by doing artwork for me, and so that benefits them. And then like Dalton, the audio producer, he makes like the trailers that I put out sometimes. And again, he would like in one trailer, he gets more listens to what he created than he would have on his own. And so like there's that exchange, of currency, which is attention. And so it works. Alika came on with me. He's out of Hawaii, and he came on. Shoot, man, I think it was like around episode 40 something. And he's been riding with me ever since. And then Gabe hopped on maybe about 6 months ago. Dalton's been with me for about 2 years. These guys are, loyal to the process and everything. And it's become like a brotherhood. Like I care about these guys. They're like my brothers. And when they need help, I'm there for them and stuff. So I get long-winded, but yeah, that's been
no.
I
totally understand. I got my producer's the same way, Pacho. Like I would be dead if it wasn't for that guy. And sometimes, like I feel bad and I'll throw him some cash. Like if I get some extra support that I can afford it. And I'm like, dude, I feel really bad. I'm trying to get everything going. And he's like, no, man. He just loves doing it. He loves being a part of it too, And so it's a cool vibe. I mean, I get it. I totally get it. But man,
I would say real quick, one thing I did learn though early on is to protect the inner circle. So not just anybody who wants to volunteer gets to be part of that inner circle, and because you have to weigh what their intentions are long term. And so like with Dalton, he reached out to me, music producer, sent me a link, and he said, hey, I would love to help work with stuff. I listened to his music. I was like, oh, he's pretty good. So I called him and we talked for about 2 hours, and not one time did Dalton bring up my show. We talked about him for 2 hours. Where is he at in life and all that stuff. And I liked that. It was just, letting me get to know him. And then after a few more phone calls, I was like, okay, let me throw him a couple projects, see what he, major, just to see what he's willing to do. But one of the most important things I learned, and I'm sure you've probably seen similar things throughout the years, is that you gotta be careful with who you let in to that inner circle. Dude. Because there are people out there that they just want they want the attention, or they want the quote unquote fame. But if it doesn't come fast enough, all get egos, or they get jealous, and all of a sudden they're an emotional wreck and they're a big problem on your hands, and you don't want to deal with that. No. And so anybody who's to start broadcasting, podcasting, whatever, if you have people coming out of the woodwork wanting to help and stuff, just vet them, build a relationship with them first without having them do anything with you. Build that relationship, and if you like them, then you start working with them. But don't do the other way around.
Yeah, so. I've had a lot of problems with that, and even the people that sometimes I've let in my inner circle, I feel like in the past, anyways, I feel like some of them would even get upset. Like when I was giving attention to other people, you could tell it. They would unconsciously do it. They would get upset because I'm giving attention to other people. And I'm like, this is what I do though. I talk to people all the time, right? Like, oh, you want this guy on your show? And I'd bring some of them on my show. Sometimes you don't want that guy. And it's like, what am I doing? Because I don't want to I don't want to upset anybody either. I want everybody to be happy too. So unfortunately, I think I found a pretty good crew with like, Rohan, Night Stalker, and then obviously Amanda's helped out a lot. And then it's hard sometimes to realize the kind of support you have when you even when you have disagreements, because when you can kind of squabble amongst each other and they're still there to back you, that's a whole nother thing, you know. But I'm too direct, bro. Like, I'm like, listen to me. Before you start this whole thing, tell me what your long-term agenda is. I don't want to find out later, you know?
Yeah.
And you would think that most people would just tell it, but they don't sometimes. And you find out later, right?
They're guarded because they feel like they're in a job interview and they're trying to get the job. So they don't tell the truth. They're selling you on something. And, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, everybody that comes my path, whether it's, you know, the people in the inner circle, my wife, who's in the ultimate inner circle, to, you know, the audience, like, this is my show. Yeah, and I'm going to do what I want to do with my show. Nobody's going to tell me what to do with my show. And that's one thing that I had to learn, because the pressure got to me after a while, because, you know, doing what I do and being who I am, like, you know, there were times that I was like, you know, actually censoring myself for my audience. But at the same time, when I'm doing that, I'm depriving my audience of who I really am and the people who actually want to hear who I am. And so I just got to the point I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not playing this game no more. I'm going to be who I am. And this is my show. So nobody dictates who I have on the show, when I do something, period. And once
or the subjects you talk about, that kind of stuff. Like, yeah,
nothing. Like, it's my show. I'm going to do, like, there's certain things that I'm not willing to go into. Like, I'm a paranormal show. And, you know, we have, like you mentioned earlier about Rage Against Dystopia. Rage Against Dystopia is essentially something that I probably would have done randomly on the Confessionals, but I kind of want to do more of it. And so instead of changing the entire format of the Confessionals, just start another platform, you know. But when it comes to the actual show of the Confessionals, there's no way anybody's going to tell me what to do with that show. And if they tried, they're going to find themselves on the outside of that circle real fast.
So if you guys want to hear an episode that'll keep you on your toes, and I forget the number of it actually, but when you told it to me that night, I went and listened to it. Or that guy was on, yeah. Is it 122? Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, that's such a good one.
Military knocking technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Episode 122. That's an all-time great, man. So
yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll go to bed, listen to this, right? And I'll probably chill, read a book. And the whole time I was like, dude, I can't sleep. Like, because what's this guy going to say next? Because it's one of those instances where, you know, some guy that did a secret military project, and every listener is going to feel this out, right? And they're going to feel it out. They're going to be like, is this guy for real? But regardless, he sounded legit. Like this whole thing sounded legit, and it kept me on the edge of my seat. It was 100% old school, like Art Bell style, even the best Art Bell style stuff. And I was like, this is why this dude's got this many listeners, man, because it's the storytelling. I love the storytelling. We get on here and talk philosophy all the time. And I even tell the other hosts on the network, I'm like, listen, we can argue and banter back and forth about what we believe and all this other stuff. But the second somebody breaks into a story is when everybody gets glued in, you know?
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah. I mean, like when you were watching the ghost shows back in the day on TV or whatever, the best part of the entire show is the reenactments, you know, where the person's telling their story and you're kind of watching what they're describing and stuff. Like, you can watch the investigator part and, you know, all that other stuff. But the best part for me was always the story. Like, you having that person sitting there and telling their story in a black room with a light shining on them. And then it cuts to the scene where there's actors acting out what that person went through. Like, that's the kind of stuff that people get glued to. And I've heard that before. People have said to me before that the show kind of is like old school Art Bell. And man, I'll tell you, like, Art Bell was before my time. I didn't even know that until people started telling me, and then I had to look into it. And, you know, unfortunately, we lost him. I think it was like a year and a half, 2 years into me podcasting, because that was something that, like, once people started saying that to me, I looked into like his older shows and stuff. I was like, man, I would love to talk to this guy and just kind of like, pick his brain and stuff. And then, we lost him. But yeah, it's one of those things, man, where episode 122, I can just listen, I can just tell you, the audience, Charlie is 100% legit. He has proven himself to me over and over again since that episode. Him and I are still in communication, and if I need certain things done, Charlie takes care of it for me. And so, like, I all I can say is that, like, he is 100% legit, and he's a handy person to have around.
So, what kind of stuff has when you first started this paranormal journey? Because the one thing I love about your show, and especially when I heard kind of the demo for Rage, and by the way, that's how you do it, guys. Like, if you want to do bring a show on, because a lot of you want shows to come on the network, you got to be professional and send a demo in. Like, this guy's he's got it all together, right? So you blatantly talk about like how you're a Christian in your heart. That's your spirituality. It's what you believe. And I was like, I mean, I'm a mystic, right? But when people get really passionate about what they believe, I love it, especially spiritually. So I have to think, okay, here's a guy that's a Christian, and he started going down this paranormal road, right? So were you like scared in the beginning? Did stuff freak you out as you started going down through this road, or what?
I was scared of being eaten alive by the people in the community more than anything.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like, I was like, man, listen, like, I'm about to go down this road of, interviewing people on their paranormal experiences. I'm a Christian. I don't know exactly how I feel about some of these things according to my faith. And, it's like an ever evolving process. And I was scared to death of that aspect of things. When it came to the conversations and stuff, I guess in the beginning I was a little nervous, but to be honest with you, I was more nervous about the actual recording part. I mean, I like give me a paper bag, breathing into it kind of thing, because I was like, oh, I gotta call somebody and interview them. How do I do this? And then I just got to the point where within like the first 20 episodes, I was just like, you know what? I'm not a journalist. And I'm not going to pretend to be one. I'm a conversationalist. I talk with people. I have conversation. So we're just going to hit record. We're going to have them start telling their story, and we're going to have a conversation and see where it goes.
Yeah, man. And, I mean, that's how Johnny Carson did it. Look at him. Right. So,
right.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, no, I think the first time I got actually scared doing the show, and I think it was episode like 13 or something like that. I was interviewing this lady, and she was telling her experiences of like this demonic entity that was following her around. Actually, she called it a tree sprite, but throughout the show, she called it demonic and different things. And back then, like I had a lot less of a time limit for my show than I do now. Now it's very much more structured. Like, we do about 50 to 55 minutes of an interview. And if it goes over than that, then we're going to have an overtime segment for the members on the website. But like back in the day, like I remember the one episode I did, it was like 3 hours long, And she and I sat and talked for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And she's sucking me into this story. And she's telling me all these different things. And I remember she said at one point, she talked about how it doesn't like when she talks about it, and it always makes itself known. And as soon as she said that, I was in my third bedroom. And at the time I had a big, long beard. I mean, my beard went halfway down my chest. And I did beard product reviews for different companies. And so I had a stack of boxes that I hadn't even got to yet. And they've been sitting there for months because now I'm podcasting. And as soon as she said that, those boxes came tumbling down off the wall. And I just kind of, and I'm sitting in a dark room. And I don't ask me why, but I thought, hey, let's do the interviews in the dark room. And the boxes came stumbling down. I looked over at the wall, and I just looked back at the screen, and at the time we were on video, and I was just like, carry on. I'm not even going to acknowledge that just happened, because that was actually the first time I really kind of got like spooked out, because like she was really sucking me in. And then she said that, and then that happened. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Holy crap, So,
Yeah, you started seeing kind of energy move and stuff too. Man, we're coming up on the bottom of the hour break too. Here we're with Tony Merkel, host of the Confessionals podcast. Also, new host of Rage Against Dystopia, another show you guys are going to hear tomorrow night for the first time on the Fringe.fm. Make sure you guys go to Fringe.fm. Please email me too if you got any suggestions or anything that you want to ask. You can always email the show too at contact@lightingthevoid.com. We'll be right back. More Lighting the Void coming up. Stay with us.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Want to know what's on the Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Malorcas 45, fan of The Fringe FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
My name is Jake. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I am a Void Walker.
Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a Void Walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a Void Walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, aka Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
Hi, this is Kronox from Belgium, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hey, this is country music singer and Void Walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
Born out of the alchemical tradition of Paracelsus is a medical tradition called Spagyria. Though not many people practice this work today, Phoenix Aurelius has been researching and teaching this work for the last 15 years, and he needs your support.
Hi, I'm Phoenix Aurelius, and I'm the founder of the Phoenix Aurelius Research Society, where I perform modern scientific research on the methods and techniques of Paracelsian alchemy and spagyria for health, wellness, agriculture, ecology, and more. All my work is 100% funded by the public. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to support my research, please consider making a purchase of spagyric medicines from my apothecary, fund your own spagyric IDF wellness research, or participate in my group study or one-on-one immersion courses so that you can learn how to perform this work for yourself. I want to thank you in advance for your support.
Visit thefringe.fm/alchemy research and enter coupon code FRINGE and receive 15% off anything and everything on the website. That's thefringe.fm/alchemy research. And thank you for doing your part and keeping alchemy alive in the modern day. All right, 1-800-588-0335 is the call-in number. It's Monday night, Moonday Night Madness. We're already moving into the 23rd here as time goes by so fast. The closer I get to 40, the faster it goes, by the way. And Tony Merkel's our guest tonight from the Confessionals podcast.com. I got a question in the chat room, too. Who was that country singer that did the promo? That's the one and only Jason Benoit, who actually came out to the recent Fringe Fest and did a couple of live shows with us and talked about some of the stuff and what he liked about Fringe topics. So if we ever do the Fringe Fest again, you guys make sure you come out to that and visit. So Tony, again, thanks, man, for coming on the broadcast. It's late night. I always have to thank everybody for coming on late night. For some reason, I feel guilty for keeping people up late. You know, I do.
I'm a machine, man. I'm a machine. I keep going. I'm good.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, it's another thing too, that, you know, in the paranormal, most of your audience actually, believe it or not. And I know the statistics on this. I know the what do you call it? The demographics, the algorithms, whatever. I know it. I know most of them sit up late at night and like they're either reading or listening to some late night radio program or podcast. So you kind of belong in the late night a little bit in a kind of a way.
Time then, huh? Prime time.
Yeah, definitely. It's prime time. So let's talk about your new show coming on tomorrow, Rage Against Dystopia, which, by the way, if you go to fringe.fm, you can see the page for it. We got to get the demo up and stuff too on the page itself, but man, this is something a little different for you, isn't it? It's a little different type of a passion project, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's going to piss a lot of people off, but, you know, it's one of those things where, back on episode 133, I believe it was, I did a show on the Confessionals called Censorship. And it was just talking about, that was shortly after, you know, Alex Jones had gotten, you know, his hit job on big tech, you know, in 24 hours, they all hit him at the same time. And I sat back and I didn't say anything about it. I didn't vocally speak out against the idea of censorship. And then we started noticing some things with iTunes that we didn't like, me and some other podcasters. And so we kind of came together and did an episode talking about censorship and how, you know, algorithms can play a role in censorship and things like that. And all the way back then, I started putting that game plan in motion. I was thinking to myself, you know, one day I might be dealing with this on my doorstep. And, you know, I know we deal with the paranormal and things, but I did dabble with the conspiracy side of things where, you know, like episode 122 is a prime example of that. You know, he came on, shared his very dramatic story. After he shared it, he got a visit from and he doesn't live in our country anymore. After his experience in the military, when he got out, he left our country. And after that episode aired, he got a visit. And so like, there's that angle of things. And so I started thinking, you know, I think it's a possibility that we might need to have a contingency plan. And as last year unfolded and into this year, I started seeing the writing was on the wall that, you know, it's go time now. Because you don't want to do it too soon. You don't want to do it, you know, 2 years ago. Everybody's going to say you're overreacting, you know, whatever. Now's the right time to pull the trigger. And so I decided that I was going to start another show. I had an Instagram page where originally it was just a private page, no followers. I wasn't following anybody. I was just using it to just like dump like memes, or I would take pictures, like screenshots of like a tweet or something. I posted on there so I could just save it, so I could just scroll through that Instagram account. And I just had this idea. I figured, maybe I'll open this up to the public. So I got rid of a lot of the old crap that just didn't make sense, and I started trying with it. And I called the page Rage Against Dystopia because it's just kind of how I felt. It's like the whole Rage Against the Machine kind of vibe. But I'm very pessimistic for our future as human beings. And I'm not a great person to hang out with if you want to feel lifted up when it comes to talking about this stuff. But I was like, you know what? I feel like we're heading towards a dystopic future. And so I'm going to rage against it. And we're going to call it Rage Against Dystopia. And that was the Instagram page. And quickly evolved into this idea that, you know what, I think it's go time, and we're going to turn it into a show. And my process was I needed to figure out where I'm going to put this show. I mean, I'm not going to just put it on big tech, because that would defeat the purpose of the censorship. And so I wanted to build a show off of big tech where it's not going to be on podcast apps. It's not going to be on Facebook. It's not going to be on Twitter. It is on Instagram just because that's where it started. But other than that, I mean, I didn't want it on big tech. It literally, when going into it, I was saying, this is a show that's meant not to grow. I was like, if you guys find it and you like it, hold on to it. But I'm not going to be advertising it. I just want to just have like a dumping ground where I can vent. If there's 5 people listening, cool, whatever. And then I came up with the idea of buying my own radio station, and I did do that, and that was a lot of work. So kudos to you. I was like, holy crap, this is a lot more work than I thought it'd be. Yeah. Because I was thinking like, oh man, I'll bring other shows on, and this should be piece of cake. No, it's not. It's a lot of work. And fortunately for me, I got connected with you guys, and I told you about, because we were originally just talking about the Confessionals, and I mentioned to you about Rage, and you said yeah to it. And I was like, that's freaking awesome. And
now you got smart and you bowed out, didn't you? He's like, I bow out. I ain't doing this radio thing. Right. Exactly. Like I'm not running a radio station.
I was like, I found some other suckers with a radio station that's going to bring me on. So there we go.
That was a smart move.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here because I have zero interest in building a radio station. It was literally just the only off the grid option I could think of that was maybe a little convenient for people. And once I saw the amount of work it took, paired with my zero ambition to have a radio station, I was like, this is gonna suck. And so I was just really glad that, we talked about things. And so Rage Against Dystopia is going to be coming, and we're just going to be talking about basically what I've been describing to people. I think it's going to be an ever evolving type of show, but we're just going to be focusing on, and this is very broad, but the culture and society we live in, and talking about where that's going to go. Where is that heading? And sometimes we might be talking about a certain issue that's happening right now, and I'm pissed off about it, and we're going to rage about it. And then maybe we'll have some shows where we have somebody on that, specializes in something, and we're talking more futuristic. I'm a self-described dystopian futurist on Instagram, and that's kind of the vibe of the show. I'm a very passionate person. I can get very emotional. I don't hide my emotions very well at all. And over the years, I've learned to just let it fly. And so if there's an episode where you hear me going bonkers, it's authentic. And if there's an episode I'm not going bonkers, he's just not riled up tonight, So, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting experience for sure, because I'm not sure how people are going to respond to it. It's very different from the Confessionals, where I'm going to be hitting a lot of sensitive topics, a lot of topics that, culturally we're told you're not supposed to talk about. You don't talk about those kind of things because you might offend somebody. And I'm just not really interested anymore in worrying about other people's feelings. I'm just going to go in and see what happens. And Joe, you told me I can say whatever I want. So
that's right.
I'm going to. Anybody who gets mad, just blame Joe. He said I can say whatever I want. So
yeah, I mean, there's a. When I talk about censorship, people think when I talk about censorship, they think I'm talking about, like, if I'm like, hey man, you don't have to say, all the F words and all this other stuff to be powerful, right? Like that's to get on different radio, right? But when I talk about real censorship, actually, is not allowing people to discuss subject matters or talk about topics that they really want to talk about. That's censorship. Or even if they're totally wrong, if someone's totally wrong and their opinion is totally wrong or unfactual, and you say, well, that's wrong or unfactual, you shouldn't talk about it. That's censorship, right? You know, so like you can't keep people from, like, I want people to be as professional as possible for sure, but I do not want people to be stifled in what they really want to talk about. You know, Ryan Gable's been on this network for a while, but he had been kicked off like 10 different radio stations, right? Just for talking about the subject matters. Commercial radio, digital radio, all kinds of radio stations would tell him, you know, you can't talk about this stuff, right? You can't talk about pedophilia networks and all this other stuff. But that's what bothered him the most. That's what he wanted to talk about. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so I kind of saw that where he was on another network and they had put him in like a Saturday or Sunday slot. And I'm like, man, this guy's a primetime host. He shouldn't be buried in there. And and in my opinion, Tony, we're in a new era now. I mean, look at regular radio. Look how awesome it is. It's not that awesome anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I used to listen to tons of FM radio driving truck and stuff, and then I wound up going to solely on the podcast stream, and I listened to tons of podcasts and things like that. And I think the way things they did it to themselves. They did it to themselves. When big tech decides they're going to start censoring and they're going to start cracking down, because the only reason why they do that is because they believe they're the beginning and end of everything. They believe that without them, you're nothing. And they misstepped on that big time. And I think radio is going to start coming back around now, especially with these stations like yours, where you're open to people, you know, just being who they are. And that is huge. And so I think big tech really misstepped there, and they're going to shoot themselves in the foot, because people are going to find another venue. Like I'm willing to do well, no, that's a lot of work too. Carry pigeons are a lot of work, but it's one of those things where, you know, people, if there's a will, there's a way, and they're going to find that way to get their message out. Whether
shortwave radio, messages in a bottle. Yeah.
I mean, or, you know, flashy flyers that they wind up sticking on people's cars. Like, I mean, people who are passionate about their message, they will find a way to get around the big tech censorship. And that was my mission with this whole thing. I was like, I'm gonna. It was like this underground feel. Like it's like they're stuffing free speech to the basement. So I'm gonna go down the basement. I'm gonna pick out a corner. I'm gonna set up shop. I'm gonna invite everybody in, and we're gonna be like these tunnel rat underground rats together, speaking freely, doing what we do. And when the whole world decides to get a little bit more sane and it simmers down, we're just gonna come out and be like, hey, we've been here the whole time. Let's teach the rest of the world now how to speak freely, you know, because man, everybody's scared to talk to each other anymore. And I don't need people to agree with me to have a conversation with them. Shoot, I've been doing that for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like I have people on my show all the time that, you know, I don't necessarily agree with on their perspectives of life, but it doesn't mean I can't have a conversation with them. But we live in a world right now where everybody's scared to offend somebody, so we don't talk to each other. There's no thoughts being shared. And when no thoughts are being shared, you're not being sharpened, and the thought just gets dull and dies. When you're muzzling yourself, when you self-muzzle yourself like that, and you don't let the thoughts that roll around your head come out of your mouth, my God, like those thoughts eventually do stop in your brain. Like if you're not allowed to express it, you eventually stop thinking it. And that's the point. Because if you can stop thinking of it, that means that there's an empty space in your head for them to fill you with nonsense.
Well, we all know what it's like to have to walk on the eggshells too, whether it's our job or a family member or a weird relationship or something where we got to walk on eggshells all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
The last place you want to walk on eggshells is your damn radio show, you know?
Exactly. I mean, you're absolutely right. There's responsibilities with life. I talk about, you know, I talk about a lot of stuff, but the idea of the COVID vaccine, it's a hot debate, and people, you know, they're like, I'm not getting the vaccine. And then some people are saying, you know, I don't want the vaccine, but if they decide they're going to mandate it and I have to, whether my job mandates or whatever, I feel like I got to, because I got a family to provide for. And it's like those are kind of life situations that you can't judge people for. You can't hold it over the head. Like, oh, you got the vaccine. You know, it's like, dude, like they got a family to provide for. And it's the same thing with the free speech stuff. Like, you got to be responsible about it. I mean, if you're at work and you know that certain things are going to get you in trouble and stuff, and that's the job that, you know, you've been blessed with to provide for your family, you got to act smart about it. But when you have the opportunity to speak your mind and be free, be free, be free.
Do it. That's what I say. You know what my problem is, Tony, is I speak my mind and I think I'm too free in every situation in life, and it's got me in trouble, you know, kind of like, well, kind of like what you're talking about. I think I'm a little direct, a little blunt sometimes. And, you know, people kind of like it on the radio. I'll get super vulnerable on the radio too, but in real life, I don't think people, I don't know. I don't think people enjoy it all that much. However, when I was listening to your show, and that girl called in talking about, you know, that kind of possession instance, and she started crying and was just like spilling her heart out. I was like, man, this is like the best stuff ever. This is the best stuff ever, because this is real. It's beyond real. Like when people get, and sometimes they get like that on this show too, especially during the psychic call-ins and Mary's helping them and stuff. But I dig that. Like I don't know about you, but I really want the deepest connection. I want someone to come on the show and tell a truth that they haven't told in years, to the point to where their voice is shaking. Does that make me weird, do you think?
No, not at all. I'm the same way. I'm absolutely the same way. For my show with the Confessionals, it's like, this is a story podcast where people come on the show to tell their experiences in life. And sometimes those experiences are more generalized, where it's like, you know, it was a long time ago and it's just a memory, so I'm recalling my memory. And then sometimes, and so those kind of conversations can get more jovial. I mean, there's times that we have a paranormal podcast and we're having that conversation where it's just free flowing conversation. And I crack a joke because I'm a sarcasm kind of guy. Sometimes I'll crack a joke, they start laughing, they say something, I start laughing, and it's just a fun conversation. And then there's those conversations where it's a current event thing where they're still dealing with it, or maybe they're not dealing with it anymore, but now they're seeing signs of their child going through the same thing they went through as a kid that haunted them most of their lives. And so it's like a very emotional thing. And when they get into those topics and they get to those parts in their mind where it affected them the most, you do hear it in their voice. You hear it. Sometimes they stop. Sometimes you actually hear them sobbing, crying. If it's a guy, you hear their voice shake and be like, you know, like they're just kind of clear that throat. But it's one of those things where it's just real life. You know, this kind of stuff affects people, and they need an outlet for it, you know? And so I'm just fortunate enough to have a platform that kind of took off, and, you know, people, they reach out for that outlet. I was just talking to somebody today who's a member on my website, and he had an issue with his email, so I fixed it for him. And we were just talking for like 30 minutes, and he was telling me that. He said, dude, like, I've been through this kind of stuff, and I listen to your show like 8 hours a day just because it's therapeutic for me. And I'm like, dang it, man. Like therapeutic, you know, like that actually comes with a lot of responsibility on my end. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like that's not the first time I heard that. It's like, I did a live show in Houston, Texas about 2 years ago. And after the show was over, you know, you're doing the meet and greet thing with people. And this lady comes up to me, and she said to me that she listens to my show. She's a clinical psychologist, and she literally bought tickets to the show to show up to meet me, just to tell me that if I ever decided to go into psychology, she thought I'd be a great like psychologist or a counselor or something like that, just the way I do interviews and I talk with people. And I'm just like, well, I typically make a habit of doing things or not doing things I don't want to do, and I definitely don't want to do that. So it's just the college route, all that stuff is just not my cup of tea. But it was really nice of her to say that. And you know, I hear people say things like that. You get emails from people saying that how much the show impacts their life and stuff. And it's just like, man, like, whoever would have thought that you're sitting down and do a show just about the paranormal, and it evolves into a show where it's real conversational, and you get in this groove where it doesn't matter who you have on the show, you can hold that conversation with them, whether it's a fun conversation or more serious. And people are actually, their lives are being affected by a show, the podcast I created. It's insane. It's absolutely insane, but it's also very humbling. I just feel like a big sense of responsibility that comes with it.
Well, I wonder too, and you guys can call in if you want and tell me this. I wonder what people are really longing for, right? People always like email me with guest suggestions and stuff like that, but like sometimes I wonder what people really want to hear again. Not because I'm going to do it because they want to. I'm just curious if they think about the same things that I do, right? Like, right now I'm big into conscious exploration and like out of body travel and stuff like that, because I think it's responsible for most of the paranormal activity that happens, right? And plus I had an out of body experience too. So myself, like a really intense one. So that whole thing, everything around that intrigues me. And I am kind of like, I'll go deep into the deepest parts of somebody's mind to try to figure out what's going on sometimes, but I think we can take it to a little bit, or at least I know I can take it to a little bit of an extreme. So speaking of which, I want to get back to this, because we only got just like a couple of minutes here for the top of the hour. When you went down this road as a Christian, talking on the radio about the paranormal, when did you start becoming like numb to it? When did it not even bother you, or you worry about it anymore? About how far in did you get to that point where you're like, nothing scares me anymore, or nothing surprises me?
That's a very difficult question to answer, because I think that even to this point there are still some ideas that would bother me. For instance, I just did an interview not too long ago, hasn't aired yet, with a guy who's he's just a full blown witch. I mean, he's self-taught, and in his email he talked about how he actually practices his spells on the people that ride on his bus. He drives bus for a living. And I was like, dang, that's kind of messed up. And
so he's casting spells on people. Huh.
Yeah. And I was just like, but I was intrigued. I was fascinated. I'm the kind of person that, like, if I see something, I just can't help myself. I got to touch it, I got to do it. And so I got him on the phone, and he was just real cool. And we talked for like 30, 40 minutes before the interview started. And right before the interview started, I said, all right, man, listen, I just got to say this. You know who I am. You listen to the show. You know I'm a Christian. That's not a problem, right? You're not going to cast some spells on me or anything. And he's like, no, Tony, I love you, man. No way. And I'm just like, okay, cool, But I was a little nervous there, I was just like, I don't want to it mistakenly invite some kind of juju in my life or something. But it went smooth. It went great, and he's such a nice guy. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Well, let me tell you a secret. As a practicing magician myself, and I don't mean street magician, but I'm old school. I'd be closer to a Christian magician than I would be a witch. All of these people know, and the witches including, all of them know that. And here's the paradox, that if you use the name of Jesus, it tops everything. They can't find a God, trust me, and their systems of gods and stuff, they can outmode that. None of them. And I've read every book on magic, not every book, but a lot of books on magic and spells and stuff. And there's all these different gods and all these different elements. But when they want to trump something, they really want something to go, that's where they turn to every time. Isn't that something?
It really is. And I hear that a lot. I mean, people listen to the show and they hear that come up at times throughout the show's existence, obviously. And they email and they're like, I tried it and it freaking worked, And I hear the name of Jesus stopping alien abductions. I'm just like, like, for me as a Christian, it's a huge faith builder. I'm just like, that's cool. Like, that's really cool. And, even for you to say that to me, it's just encouraging for me just to hear that. I mean, I like I said, I don't need people to agree with me all the time, but for my theological convictions, I'm like, cool, trump card, I guess.
It is the trump card. It's the ultimate trump card. I mean, it's the sun, like in my point of view, it's the sun. It's the power of the sun, or Tifereth, or I'm probably speaking Greek to some people, but Jesus is there to amp, he's like the Son of God. He is the ultimate sacrifice, but also came here to tell us what we're here to do and become too. So there's he's the man in my book. But he's right up there with Buddha, if not higher than all the other guys. So, but I don't even judge. Like, man, when people come on and they get passionate about if they're Buddhist or whatever, I want to hear their story. Like, I want to know why, what happened to them. Like, how did their life change? Like, obviously, a lot of Christians become Christians because it changed their life for the better. I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does.
I mean, that's honestly, that's me. I mean, I was raised in a Christian household, but I really wasn't a Christian. I got married young, but I wasn't a Christian. My life went downhill. Like, I almost lost my marriage. I was a totally different person about 10 years ago. And I just had an experience with God that there's nobody that could tell me otherwise. What happened that day wasn't God. And it changed me forever. I literally almost instantaneously changed. It was insane. Like, by the time I got back in the car with my wife, she's looking at me like, "Are you all right?" I'm just like, "I'm good." I don't know what to describe this as. I don't know what to tell you right now. I'm just letting it simmer, but I am good, And she's the biggest testament right there. My wife could tell people all day long the night and day difference. I mean, I went from being somebody who hated people, didn't like talking to people, didn't want to be around people. I was only about making money and my wife. That's it. If you weren't part of that equation, get out. And to somebody who, that people see now today, where I absolutely love people. I have a very short temper for stupidity, but I definitely just love people. And that's just one aspect of the change.
That's a paradox right there then. Because people can be stupid.
Oh yeah. Just listen, I always give people the benefit of the doubt. When you come to me, we talk, we're good. But like, when people try crossing me up, I don't do good with that. And I think that, and you probably get this too, where it's just in the sense that people hear you on the radio, so they get a sense of you as the DJ or the host, but there's a whole other side of you that isn't on the radio that people don't know that exists. And they don't understand that, and sometimes they think they can step into India, and that doesn't work out too good for some people, So
right. Yeah, you mess with the bull, you get the horns. That's what I always tell people. So listen, we're gonna come back part 2 here with Tony Merkel. We're gonna open up the phone lines. We're gonna get into some storytelling. I'm gonna bust out some stories. I know Tony's probably got a couple too. 1-800-588-0335. When we come back, stay with us.
Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is Fee, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I'll guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root and the show, and heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new art gal. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, aka the Night Stalker, and I'm a Void Walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a Void Walker. Thanks, Joe Rube.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
Have you heard of heavy metals? Yeah! I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. Cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great, so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
From the Kingdom of Arkansas, you are listening to Joe Root and Lighting the Void here on the Fringe FM.
Tony Merkel's here with us from the Confessionals podcast and his radio show, Rage Against Dystopia, that's going to be here tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you check the show out. And if anybody, Tony, needs to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you as far as like guest suggestions, or if they want to give you feedback or any of that stuff?
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is to email me. If it's for the Confessionals, you can email me at theconfessionals@theconfessionalspodcast.com. It's pretty easy to remember. And for Rage Against Dystopia, it's rageagainstdystopia@protonmail.com. I got off that Gmail, so we're on Proton Mail. And to be honest with you, Proton Mail, they need to step up their game as far as their app goes, but at least it's not Google, so I'm down with that.
Right. Yeah. Google, at least it's not Google. Well, let me tell you something, man. Since I moved up to the north, and you're a northerner because you're from the Philly area, I've never, like I told you, I had an out-of-body experience. I had a couple of other things happen in my life, some real paranormal stuff happened, but I'd never seen a walking ghost in my entire life until I moved up here.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm almost 40 years old. I never saw any type of entities that, not when I was awake or anything like that, but I literally saw a lady walking down the road up here and disappeared on me. And dude, I'm not scared of a lot, but that scared me for some reason. And it's a harmless old lady just walking down the road. Car lights come up the road. The lady disappears. My heart speeds up and I take off running. Right. I don't know if that happened to you at all. But it did happen to me here. And I think it's probably because of half the stuff I talk about. I bet it is. What do you think?
You know, it might be. It might be. I mean, with all the stuff that I've heard through my show and stuff, I thought that I was probably going to be inviting some paranormal activity to vamp up in my life. But in all, since I started the show, I really haven't had a whole lot of craziness happen to me. When I was in college, I had a pretty scary experience over, I think it was like a couple days. For me, it was scary. I mean, compared to what I hear on my show, it's a cakewalk. But you know, me and my wife, we were dating at the time. We were both in college, and she was at Penn State Berks campus, and I was at another college towards Philly. So it was an hour drive between the two. And it was a Sunday night, and we were watching ghost shows on TV. And we were at her house by ourselves, and we went downstairs after the show was over to look through old photo albums to see if we could find any of those ghost pictures that, you know, oh my God, what was that in the background? And her and I just got this weird feeling at the same time, like just we didn't feel comfortable anymore. Like it was just, I don't know if we, you know, part of me was thinking like, am I just wigging myself out? And then she felt that too, and I was like, okay, maybe it's not just me. And so I said, you know what, you want to go? And she's like, yeah, I want to go. And so I'm driving her back to her college, and I think I said it was Sunday night. So it was a Sunday night. And so I had to go back to school. She did too. And driving to her college, we both kind of felt like there was this presence in the car with us. And every time I looked in my rearview mirror, I was thinking I was going to see something sitting in the back seat with me. And I'm not kidding you, man. I'm driving her to the college, and I'm thinking to myself, I get there and I'm dropping her off, and I'm thinking, I really hope whatever's here just kind of stays with her. Like, I was like, I don't want to come in with me. Like, listen, there's no ring on her finger. We're not even engaged. Like, this could be it. That's fine with me. Like, this thing can stay with her. And unfortunately for me, it didn't. And I just had this this dread.
You hope it stays with her. Come on, man. What? Did you tell her that? Did you say it? I hope it stays with you.
No. I've told her that now, but not back then. No, I think I was like 19 years old, and you know, I was just like, yeah, let's leave this here with her. But I'm heading back to the school, and I just had this feeling that it's like, oh man, like I still had that feeling. And I get back to the school, and I was talking to this one guy who I knew had he wasn't active, but he used to practice Wicca, and I was like, maybe I'll just talk to this guy and see what he thinks about this stuff. And I was just telling him how I was feeling and stuff, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and you know, my roommate was sleeping, his roommate was sleeping, so we wound up just talking in the laundry room because it was like the only like spot really to hang out and talk without people walking in and out. And the laundry room had these windows going all the way across the wall. And at one point, I'm talking to him, and I look over, and dude, I see these two eyes looking back at me through that window, and it scared the crap out of me. I just hid my face in like the dryer or washer, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And like, he's like patting me on the back. He's like, it's okay. Like I could tell he was weirded out. He's like, what the heck is wrong with this dude? I was freaked out. And so to the point that I couldn't even sleep in my room that night. I wound up sleeping on his floor in his room because I was like, I don't want to go in my room by myself. And then I think it was like the next night or the night before, I had told my roommate what was going on. And it was late at night, and I'm laying in my bed, trying to go to sleep. He's already sleeping. And my bed was next to the wall with the window, and the window in our dorm room went from floor to ceiling, and it had some blinds that went from floor to ceiling. And I'm just laying in my bed, and sure as day, man, I see the blinds get pulled out from my window probably about 6 inches, like somebody pinched the string and was just pulling it out, and they just let it slap against the window. And dude, that freaked me out so bad. And I went to a professor the next day to talk to him about this stuff. I don't think I mentioned it. I actually was at a Bible college, and so I talked to this professor, and I thought he would just be like, kid, you're weird, But then he just reassured me. He's like, these kind of things happen, and he started telling me experiences that he had in his life, and he made me feel real comfortable that I wasn't going crazy. And I think that was probably my first time really dealing with something. I just was like, this is straight paranormal. Like, I didn't know what else to call it, Like, it was no feeling. Like, I saw stuff, and I was like, this is crazy. And I was running through my head. I was like, could it have been fireflies in the window? No, it was too cold. It wasn't that time of year, for fireflies. I was like, man, it was crazy. I don't think I'll ever forget that. I mean, I've had other experiences. The biggest, most emotional, most impactful experience for me was when I went to a guy's house where I believe he tricked me to come to his house, but he was, and I talk about this on the first show, actually, a little bit in a sense. I understand that there are different types of people in this world that call themselves Satanists. And this guy I didn't know was a Satanist until I got to his house, and he kind of played me a little bit. And I can go into that story if you want, but he kind of dropped the bomb at me at the end that he's a Satanist, and he just it was a pretty trippy experience.
He waited till the end to tell you that?
Yeah, okay. If we got time, I'll tell the story. I'll tell the condensed version, because if I tell the long part, it's going to take like 30 minutes.
All right.
So I drive in truck for a living. I'm delivering to this one place all the time, and I get to know this guy. He's my receiver. And every time I went in there, he was telling me part of his life story. And it was very dramatic. Could be a movie. And so the one day he's telling me stuff, and it kind of felt like it was coming to a conclusion. And I said, dude, what's the next chapter in your life, man? And he's like, I don't know. I'm probably going to blow my brains out. And I looked at him, and for me, now I'm a Christian at that time, like a real Christian, like not I was raised in a Christian church thing. And I looked at him, I was like, dude, you don't want to do that, man. God's got plans for your life. And when I said that to him, when I said God's got plans for your life, dude, he looked at me different. And he's like almost like he never heard of God before. And he started asking me all these questions. And I'm like, I got no problem talking about it. So yeah. And he like followed me out to my truck, and I had to get moving. So I said, he asked me if I could come to his house to talk to him about God. And I was like, yeah, sure. No problem, man. And so we made an appointment. It was a Tuesday morning. That Saturday, I went to his house to talk to him about God. I didn't know what to expect, but that whole week I felt like, I just felt like God was speaking to me that whole week, kind of preparing me for some kind of like spiritual warfare or something. I didn't know what to expect. I was just like, I didn't know, where that feeling was coming from. I didn't know what it was about. I just I really liked this guy, and all of a sudden I started feeling like there was something else going on. And I went to the church that Saturday morning to pick up a Bible to give him, because I didn't know if he had one or not. And I told the pastor how I was feeling, and he was like, every time you talked about somebody about God, there's spiritual warfare. I'm like, dude, I understand that. This isn't what I'm talking about. Like, I was like, dude, I feel like there's something going on here. And he's like, well, let's pray about it. And I'm like, okay. So it's just like, and we prayed, and I'm not diminishing the power of prayer. Like it just like I was irritated because he wasn't catching what I was trying to dish to him. And I show up to this guy's house and I knock on the door, dude. And I'm telling you, when I knocked on the door opens up like seemingly by itself. And I'm and it's completely black inside. And I'm like, what the heck? And so I just kind of peek my head in the house. I'm like, hello. And he just steps out from behind the door and he goes, you came? And I said, yeah, we made an appointment for 11 o'clock. Come here. And he's like, most people don't come. And I'm like, wait a second, like that, you would think that would like ring a bell in my head or something. It went right over my head.
You were like, oh, I'm here. I'm the one person. So don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like looking back, I'm like, wait a second. He said most people don't come. He's tried this before, you know? Yeah. But I walk in and it's like a bachelor pad, man. Like, you know, he lives by himself. Like his wallpaper was pinup girls everywhere in his living room. Like I was like, this dude lives by himself. And I'm walking by this bookshelf that kind of comes out from the wall. It's attached to the wall, kind of dividing the living room and the dining room. And I just really felt again this pull in my spirit, like to be aware of the bookshelf. I'm like, okay. And I walk into the dining room because he said we're going to sit at the table. And again, there was two chairs at the table, and I just had this feeling that I needed to sit in the chair between the table and the window, and not the table, not between the table and the door that's behind the chair.
This is all intuition, by the way, right? So like,
yeah. Well, I for me, my perspective is it was like the Holy Spirit speaking to my spirit, like guiding me through the process.
Gotcha.
But some would call it definitely intuition. So I sit down in this chair, and let me preface this by saying I'm at this guy's house for 3 hours. And so this was not a short visit. And we're talking about a lot of stuff and nothing about God. And we're just having a good time. You know, he's telling me about his life, what he does and all this stuff for hobbies. And then the conversation turned towards a God topic, and we started talking about stuff. And at some point he's like, do you believe in ghosts? And this is before I was a podcaster. This is before Paranormal, Tony, all that stuff. I mean, I believed in it, but I wasn't pursuing it like I do now. And I said, yeah, I believe in ghosts. And he goes like, oh, okay. There's 7 ghosts in this house. And I was just like, and I'm pretty sure he said 7. And I'm just like, okay. And right there, like in my gut, I wouldn't say it was the Holy Spirit, but in my gut, I felt like, okay, whatever I've been getting prepared for spiritually this week, I feel like it's about to start. And he started talking about different things, and we started talking about God, and I jumped a spot. So after he told me there was the 7 ghosts in the house, he relayed the story of these ghosts their origin from the basement. Something happened in the basement where people died, and he invited me into the basement to check it out. And I was like, nah, dude, I'm just gonna stay up here. Like, we're gonna stay right here. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but the basement was that door behind the chair that he's now sitting in that I chose not to sit in. And I'm just like, I don't know what the heck would have happened if I sat in that chair. Like, is somebody going to come out behind the door or what? I don't know. So we're talking, and we start talking about God, because like, he's like, okay, we'll stay up here then. And, you know, it's like, he didn't take offense to it or anything. And then when I started talking about Jesus, like, he started really like nodding his head, and like he was physically digging what I was talking to him about. And at some point I'm just like, dude, like, you seem like you're really into this. Like, do you want to, you know, I don't know, like, pray for salvation through Christ? And he's like, yeah, I do. And so and Joe, I'm actually interested to hear your opinion on this, because I've heard a lot of people, you know, kind of tell me their opinion as to what I experienced that day, because I was clueless. I'm probably still clueless. So we pray. And I don't believe in like there's a special prayer for your Christian salvation. I think it's more of a heart-to-heart thing with God. And so basically I kind of guided him through this idea of, you know, confessing your sin and asking, you know, Christ to come into your heart. And so he does that, and he stands up from the table afterwards, and he starts shaking his arms real hard, like almost like an Energizer bunny. And he's like, I feel this energy just rushing through my body. And I'm just like, that's new for me, man. Like, I've never seen this one before. And so he's like, I just want to give you a hug. And I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, I'm like, that's nothing new to me, like bro hug or whatever. And
you should have asked him, like, you sure you didn't pop any Molly or anything like that beforehand?
So he comes in for a hug, and he goes like full body to body, like tight squeeze from like toe to head kind of squeeze hug. And he wraps his arms around me, puts his head on my shoulder, and he just exhales. He's just like, I'm just like, this is weird. And I didn't leave though. Okay. So we sat down at the table, we're talking more. And again, he does it again a little bit later where he just says that he feels this energy rushing through his body and he wants to hug. I'm like, okay, man. And I don't know what to do, you know, like
so
most
you're
people
hugging him,
like,
right?
Yeah. Most people are like, I'm out at this point, man. Like it's time to roll. This dude's weird.
Yeah. Next thing he's going to be like, you know what? I really want to kiss. You know?
No, you said it. Like I didn't get any homosexual vibes from this guy. I didn't. But if I'm gonna describe the situation, like he was up on me, like tight.
Right. Yeah.
But so second hug comes and he does the same thing where he puts his head on my shoulder and he exhales like that. And then he lets go and we're talking. Well, at this point now, his attitude started changing a little bit. Not like mean or anything, but just like he wasn't so jolly. He was more like just stern, not even stern, just different. And he's like, I got to tell you something. And I said, what's that? And he goes, I'm a member of the Church of Satan. I'm like, okay. Like I at that point in my life, now I've talked to lots of Satanists now through my show and stuff. But at that point, as far as I knew, at least that was somebody that was the first time I ever came across somebody that told me they were a Satanist. And he gets up and walks over to that bookshelf I had that feeling about. And he pulls I think it was like 2 or 3 books off the shelf. And he puts it on the table in front of me. And he said, I want you to take these books out of my house for me. And I was like, all right, man, I can do that. And I again, I didn't know anything. Okay. I'm a stupid guy driving truck and preaching Jesus. And so I take my Bible, I put it on top of those books as my only authoritative gesture I could think of. And as I did that though, now he's standing next to the table, like kind of over me. And I said, I'm going to burn him. And he goes, no, he yelled at me like that. And I was like,
God. So first you're getting hugs, now you're getting screamed at.
Yeah. And like, again, I told people before, like, you know, I have a temper when people push at me like that. And I'm biting my tongue. I'm like, all right, man, I'm not going to burn them, but you don't got to yell at me like that. You know, like I was like,
you start out calm. I got you. Yeah.
And so we talk a little bit. And then for the third and final time, he starts shaking his arms like that. I feel this energy rushing through my body. And he comes in for that big hug, puts his head on my shoulder, exhales. And at that point, it's been 3 hours. And I'm just like, I got to go. And so I took those books out of the house for him because I didn't understand what was going on around me. All I knew is this guy invited me to his house to talk about God. We prayed. He's acting weird, but, you know, it's whatever floats your boat, I guess.
I think it's Pentecostal, probably. Assembly of God, maybe.
Yeah. And so he goes in and does all that stuff. And then he did all those hugs and gave me those books. And so I left. And when I left, I honestly, Joe, I felt different. Like I felt weird. Like I felt like there was something. I still don't even know how to describe it, but I can tell you from that day forward, it marked the day in my life where I started struggling spiritually. I felt this gap growing between me and God, where I used to wake up in the morning and the first thing I would do, not out of obligation, it was my heart's desire. I would sit down and read my Bible. I didn't have kids. I would wake up. I would have to be at work at 9:30. I'd wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd read for like 2 hours. Cause I'm just like, I got to read more of this thing. I like every day I'm reading it and things are popping out at me. I'm like, this is freaking nuts. And it was like that for a long time. When that happened, slowly I started feeling this spiritual gap in my life, and I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't even identify it as that day. By the way, I threw those books away in a dumpster somewhere. And I invited this guy Jason to church, and he never showed up. I would call him. I called him. He didn't answer. So like the next week, I shot him an email, and he just said, yeah, this isn't going to work for me. I tried it. It's not going to work.
This is so weird, dude. This is that'd be the weirdest story I've ever heard.
So like he's telling me that he tried the Christian thing. It didn't work. And I'm like, you didn't try it though. Like like you only sat with me one time to talk to me, and you didn't like build a relationship with me or anything. Like you didn't try really, you know, like, but whatever. So communication stopped with him, and I'm going forward in life, and my faith never wavered in Christ, but my spiritual relationship with God really kind of took a hard hit.
Yeah.
And about a year goes by, and I'm sitting in my truck on my lunch break talking to a friend from church, and I tell him this story. And after I'm done telling the story, it hits me like a ton of bricks that's the day that I started having this spiritual gap in my life with God. Like that's when it all started.
After the event with this guy.
Yeah.
Right.
After that event with this guy, it wasn't huge right away, but I could definitely, when I was leaving his house, feel like there was something off. And from that point forward, slowly over the next few months, my devotion to reading the Bible really started getting weaker, and I started praying less. And it's not like my faith was gone, but I just didn't have this desire anymore to know my Maker like I once did, and I didn't understand it. And then I'm telling my friend this, and then it hits me. I'm like, you know what? And this is my interpretation. I don't know if it's true, but for me, I'm like, I wonder, or I should say, this is what I said. I bet this guy lured me to his house knowing he's a Satanist. And I said to him at his job that God has plans for your life. He lured me to his house. And I don't know what that whole hugging thing was, but it seems ritualistic to me now. And whatever he did that day, I feel like he did something to me. That's how in that moment I described it.
It does sound crazy though, because he's like, I got this energy rushing through my body. Touch me, hug me.
Here's the thing. So as time went on, I had time to think about it. I was like, well, if he's read or heard about how Christians, have the Holy Spirit living inside of them, and he truly is like a sinister Satanist, because I don't believe all Satanists are sinister, but I do believe some are. And if he's truly a sinister Satanist, where maybe he I don't know, invites demons to live in him or something, he might have a concept of an idea of having a spiritual entity living inside of you that he was trying to portray to me after that prayer. And that's just my interpretation of the moment in my life there. But I've had people tell me, and this is something that I don't know, but I've had people tell me that him hugging me and exhaling like that was him trying to release a demonic entity into me or onto me. And
could be, man. I want to keep talking about this. This is crazy. A vampirish type could be vampirish. Who knows? But that has we're going to leave off right there because we're on our last break. That has got to be the weirdest story I've ever heard, man. I want to finish this story with Tony Merkel, host of the Confessionals podcast, also new host of Rage Against Dystopia that airs tomorrow night, 5 p.m. right here on the Fringe FM. We'll be right back. Stay with us. All right, 1-800-588-0335. Look, if any of you guys got an interpretation of what might have been going on with like Tony there, I would love to hear it because that was pretty creepy. And I'm glad you shared that with us. But so after the event that happened, and by the way, if you're just now joining us, we're here with Tony Merkel, host of the Confessionals podcast and also host of Rage Against Dystopia, which airs tomorrow on Fringe FM at 9 p.m. Pacific. I would have thought for sure that guy was going to try to make out with me. Or, you know what's creepy about the whole story is the exhaling. The exhaling thing. What the hell was he doing that for?
I don't know. And that was the weirdest thing for me too. I mean, it was odd that a guy, I'm thinking when he said hug, bro hug, 3 taps in the back kind of thing. And like college, I mentioned I went to Bible college, and at one time in my life, I don't believe I was pursuing a Christian, but I was pursuing ministry because I always had the sense that I was called to be an impactful person in people's lives. I just didn't know, I didn't have a direction for them. And I was part of this short team where we would go out to Philadelphia and surrounding cities, and we would just talk to people about God at like midnight on the street, like drug dealers, all that stuff. And I've seen like people like put down the drugs and the alcohol and pray with us on the street and stuff. And afterwards it's the bro hug kind of thing. And so that's what I kind of expected. And so he comes in for that full frontal hug and he squeezes me. and he puts his head on my shoulder and exhales like that long exhale. It was weird, man. Like it was off. Like I was just like, that's new. That's a new one.
He
Like,
didn't whisper in your ear and be like, I have energy rushing through me.
It's going to a particular part of my body.
Yeah, I'd be like, whoa, man. Like, I'm just over here to help. I wanted to talk to you about, isn't that how all those stories start too? Some of them, by the way. I want to talk to you about God or something, right? Yes. And you're in a spiritual like state of mind. You want to get something going and talk about it. Next thing you know, they're unleashing all their emotional tension on you, you know?
Yeah, or they're like, do you know Jesus? No. You want to meet him now? And they bring out an axe and they chop you up into pieces, you know? Yeah. Like how many cults and stuff are circled around the idea of, you know, following God's, you know, will for your life, and that's why you drink the Kool-Aid, you know? Well,
Ryan Gable's got a really cool story about that. Like he got to know, I think, this person for like 3 or 4 months, and when he finally when they finally got him into his house, they took him into the back room and then asked him that question, do you know Jesus? And it just wigged him out because they didn't even talk about it. It was like from out of nowhere, right? And that's kind of weird, but that's not near as weird as what this guy was doing. I feel like it could be a form of like ritual vampirism, possibly, maybe. Like he was expelling energy onto you or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It definitely, looking back at it, in the moment, I didn't even think along these lines, but looking back on it, it does feel like it was some kind of ritual. I've never heard of it described as that, the ritual vampirism, but shoot, man, like I'm willing to listen to any theories because I have no idea what happened that day. And I don't know if I ever really truly will know exactly what happened. All I know is it messed me up spiritually. It literally messed me up spiritually. And it took me years to recover. I'm talking years. Like I'm still on the rebound from that. Like I'm not even kidding you. Like
I'm not trying to laugh. That's just crazy,
no, it's
bro.
Cool. It's cool. Like I've never gotten back to the point that I was at before the day I went to his house spiritually. Like, I mean, I was on like cloud 9 on spiritual level, like because I didn't have any kids. My wife is an introvert, and if you give her a book to read, she'll be there for 5 hours reading the book. She used to read over 100 books a year.
So okay, when you went home and you said, "Listen, I went to this guy's house who I think he had some kind of issues." Now this is a different guy that had pinups all over the wall, or is it the same guy? Is it the same guy? Same guy. Okay, so I go over to his house and I tell him I want to talk to him about God, and he's a Satanist or whatever. Did you tell your wife the story? Like, did you tell her what was happening? What did she say?
Yeah. So before I even went, she didn't have a good feeling. So before I even went, usually my wife, like before kids, we loved each other. We like ride and die together, but we were very independent of each other. She did her thing. I did my thing. There was like, I could come home on a Wednesday night at 8:00 at night and say, Kyle called and he wants to get together at gym and play basketball. No big deal.
That's cool.
You know? Yeah. It was really, I mean, for 10 years before kids, that's the way life was. And I told her, you know, that this guy invited me to his house to talk about God. Now that in itself, like she knows, like I'm on, like she's a Christian. I'm now a Christian. Like that in itself, if I say it to my wife, that should not be a problem at all. But she did not have a good feeling about it. And she demanded to have his address and phone number before I left the house that day to go to his house.
Always listen to the woman. They always got a good intuition, right?
So when I came home and told her the story, she's like, oh my God. Like, she's like, I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. Something's wrong with that guy. Well, I'm still curious about the exhaling and the energy thing. That is freaking weird. We got a caller, 402 area code. You're on the air with Tony Merkel. Who are we speaking with?
402. Hey Joe. Hey Tony. It's Brian.
What's up, Brian? What do you think was going on with this guy?
You know, most of the things that I've been taught over some years is most people, I mean, at least in a spiritual way, when they're hugging you, usually it's heart to heart, and it's your left side of your body to the left side of your body. So I was kind of saying it in the chat, but I was taught that most of it, when it's transferring, they'll use, I mean, unless it's just coming in through you because, you know, you're in a primal state. Most of that energy will come in through it'll come in through the back of the neck,
Right.
in a guy, and then it will actually move to the guy, and it likes to move to a female.
So what do you think was he was trying to do with Tony?
Probably just power him down. Probably because he knew what he had and what he was going to do with it. And that's what it does. That's what it does to people. It throws them off and takes them off course and puts them in the ditch, and then they can't, it's...
You did say too, Tony, that you felt like disconnected after that, right? Like spiritually?
When he said power down, I was like, that's how I felt. Like I felt like I was being powered down. I mean, I was literally on for about a year or two, I was on this like spiritual peak of my life where I was just like, it can't get any better than this. Like I was enjoying every second. And after that moment, that's what it felt like. It felt like there was this like gap growing between me and God, like a powering down.
Let me tell you something. I've ran into these guys before, honestly. Well, go ahead, Brian. I'll tell you a weird story, but go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say, if you were on a big high, then you were probably just holding a lot of light, and that makes you kind of a target, and you need to really protect that, armor up, as it says, right? But there are other, there's ways to do it. But that's what it does.
I've never told anybody this though. I got to tell you this. Well, before I forget about it. Back when I was into like Rosicrucian stuff, and I got into the Golden Dawn and started practicing magic and all this stuff, I did run into this Egyptian Freemasonic group, right? And they wanted me to join like Egyptian Freemasonry, which I thought, it was cool because I'm into Egyptian stuff. But I got to looking into their lineages, and they actually had like a lineage, no joke, that went back to this order of like the Diamond Vampires or something. And I asked them about it. I said, well, what is this, man? What's this about? So I got to meet one of them, right? And I was in Vegas when I met this person. I never told this story ever in my life. And sure enough, like this guy was, I don't want to tell you all the stuff that he wanted to go do that night. I just can't talk about it. But it wigged me out to the point where, like, when you talk about this guy had pinups all over his wall, like some kind of porn fetish or something, I knew what was going on. I really think that dude did try to power you down, bro. I really do. I think he was probably studying some way to do that, to get his Kundalini energy all backed up or actually charged up, and then just, lock into you because you're a male and take it from you.
Especially the way he said that it breathed this long exhale, the way he said he breathed into him and how close he was getting to him. He was sticking it to him, right?
Yeah, it's pretty freaky, man.
His head was on my left shoulder, I think, every time. Like it just like he would literally rest his chin on my shoulder and then exhale. And you were talking about something with the back of the neck. Well, his mouth was right there at the back of my neck.
Yeah, see, and the I don't want to get too into this. Maybe one day I will. The truth is that stuff that those energies that he's playing with are meant to be passed between your partner, your wife, the person that you really love, and this dude's tapping into it and powering you down. And you said it was like a year after that you felt messed up.
Well, I felt longer than a year. It was a year after that incident that I started putting together dots, because the whole time, that over a year period, I was like, that was a really weird experience, but hey, at least he,
at least he talked to you.
It's like, yeah, I was just like, trying to think of it positively, and then that's when it all clicked in my head. I was like, wait a second. But no, it was years. I mean, I'm talking like, I didn't really start truly turning a corner in my spiritual life again, to where I feel like I'm getting closer to God until like maybe mid last year. I mean, it was getting better, but I feel like I finally made that turn where I was like, I'm on my way back now. Like I'm not back, but I feel like I'm on my way back now.
In my opinion, spirituality should only do two things to you. It should make you feel happy, free, and empowered and loved, or put you in some really uncomfortable spots so that you grow. It should never have you in a place where some person's like, doing what that guy was doing. That I don't know. That would have been, I don't know. Like, what was your when the first time he did it,
what was your first thought? What did you want to say instinctually? What did you want to say to him?
I was like, this is weird. Like again, I've had experiences with people after they prayed with me and stuff, and it's just a normal bro hug is what I call it. But the whole hugging that he did with me, it just threw me off. I didn't know what to think of it. I was just like, this is different, because the guy, remember, like before he even came in for that first hug, he was saying he feels this energy rushing through his body. He's holding his arms up like out in front of him, like bent, and like shaking him violently, like he was like charging up or something with like electric energy. You know?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and the other thing is, it probably, just to be really honest about it, he probably wasn't even aware that he was doing it. Probably something, I mean, if you know what you know about him and he was involved in what he was involved in, you know, something was controlling him. It probably was not even him that you were talking to spiritually, you know?
Some trying to vamp that energy or parasitically get that energy from you, you know?
So let me, Brian, that's his name. The caller's name is Brian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me tell you this part. I told Joe during the break, when I connected those dots, like a year later, in between the time I was at his house and the time that I connected those dots, that year span, I would go into where he works and he would, you know, receive the freight I was delivering, or he'd be loading my truck up with, you know, stuff that's going out, everything, every time, just like always, every time. When I connected those dots, I never saw him again. Every time I went in there, he was off doing something else. And it got to the point where I was literally asking for him, asking where he's at. And he was just always doing something else. And eventually he moved to another department. And I always felt like, did he know that I figured it out, that I connected dots and he was avoiding me? I don't know. But I was just like, that's weird, because I've been in there tons of times and I never had anybody other than him.
It's pretty normal. I think once, if you get a beat on them, it's really normal for them to run. If you can, but that's just it. You kind of, I mean, when you get them cornered, you know, that's usually when they lash out. So, and that's probably what happened. Well, that's when they, you know, when he said, I mean, that's the way I took it. When you said that, he said, no, you know, when he said that you're going to burn those books or whatever, that pretty much is a pretty good indication that something else is home, you know?
Yeah.
And then that's usually how it works. When you confront this stuff, if you say anything that exposes them, it will react. Not the person, but what is in the person will react strongly, and usually really rudely. So in a way that they weren't just behaving. It's very strange. It's very strange. But that's right there. That right there is the time when you move into your power, and you stand off against it, and you don't budge. You know, because it's warfare.
Well, it didn't totally get you. That's the good news, right? Like, it didn't totally vamp you out. Obviously, you're still in good spirits, you know?
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. I've over the years and stuff since then, I've felt like there's been spiritual revelations that I've had that, you know, I find very beneficial. And I've also looked into the Bible in different ways over this period of time too, that I never did before. Like, and nothing like looking for hidden secrets or anything, but like, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Nephilim and stuff, but like, I never really looked into that stuff. And then I started looking into that, and that led me to the book of Enoch, and looking into the book of Enoch, and then prophecies of the Bible. Like, I've definitely had these like spiritual revelations since then. But man, like, I'll never forget how I was before I went to that guy's house.
Did you get sick? Did you get sick afterwards?
No, I don't think so. No, not that I can remember.
That's good. That's good.
Well, then I would say that's probably one of the, at all the episodes that we've done, that's probably one of the weirdest stories I've ever heard. But I think Brian's right. And thanks for your call, Brian, for telling us about that.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Nice.
Yeah, because he's Brian studies that stuff too, so he's a shaman and everything. But I can tell you from the studies that I've done that they didn't talk about like what I would say, you know, like marriage and all this other stuff, and that was talked about, but there was a lot of hidden stuff in the Bible. I'll put it to you that way. And there is an energy that people in these orders, they learn how to use and mess with and all kinds of stuff, and it's bad news, right? But it's really good if you learn it with, you know, your partner and stuff. But dude, I think you did. I think you made out good. You probably think about why you yelled no when you said burn those books. No,
I know,
right?
Yeah. Like, and I don't know if I said it when I was telling the story, but like it was like almost, and Brian would probably really appreciate this actually. When he yelled no to me like that, I'm like, all right, man, you don't got to yell at me though. And he like, it was like almost like he was snapping out of it because he like stuttered over himself. He's like, I'm sorry. I just don't like anybody burning books. It was like he had to calm himself down, you know, over the idea of these books being burned. And some people have told me that he probably had something attached to the books. And I'm just like, well, I didn't take them home anyways because I didn't feel comfortable taking them home. So I threw them in the dumpster. But yeah, I tell you, that was probably, hopefully it's the only time I ever have an experience like that. That was by far the most bizarre experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, it sounds pretty bizarre, man. I'm glad you made it through it. And you know what? I think you're going to have some more cool experiences too as you go along on your journey, but also too, we're running out of time. So if we can, we'll try to take one more caller here. Let's see who we got on line one. It says anonymous. You're speaking with Tony Merkel. Who are you speaking with?
It's Rohan calling. You hear me all right?
All right. What's up, Rohan?
All right. Yeah. I'm good, man. I'm good. Hope you're okay. I'm enjoying the show. I just thought a quick call in at the end, and because I've got something to add with that breathing thing and possession and stuff. I thought it might be.
Yeah. All right. Tell us what's up. What's going on with it?
Yeah, so I've got a few things to say about the breathing thing and the possession thing, because that's a martial arts technique, that is. You're learning the mysticism side of things, all right, for one thing. Okay, so you use breathing techniques, you've got all these yogas and stuff, and you're doing it you're doing all this Tai Chi and Falun Dafa to adjust your magnetism and stuff like that, and then and then you call animals into yourself, like possession sort of thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like changing your mindsets and that. But breathing work's an important part of it. Do you know what I'm saying? And also you're supposed to be able to get into those states and get into, you know, when you're in that sort of in the moment thing, and you can stare in people's eyes. And you're supposed to be able to drop the chi and use your fingers to like just make a line down the body to like split the balance and think, I don't know if I mentioned to you before, use your footwork patterns and your hand movements to draw sigils over people. Do you know what I'm saying? That's like the deep levels of, you know, the secrets of martial arts sort of thing. People using mysticism and magic with that stuff all day long. And they're doing all that breathing work and they're getting close to people, you know, and the neck and the head, the back of the neck, that's always a target because the brain stems are there. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you've got your spine and your kundalini stuff. And I just wonder about that. I wonder if it's like, say, and I knew this guy that used to be worried about this spirit on the back of his neck all the time, but everyone thought he was nuts because he went hard on Jesus thinking, well, there's a good guy that might be able to help me with this. But he only used to talk about that to me, not nuts. But I think he was onto something. Do you know what I'm saying? Because he was a nurse. But he kind of wrecked his career trying to sort this thing out on his neck. And yet, do you know what I mean? But everyone just thought Cindy was nuts. But he was a nurse. He was a registered nurse. So we had to like dedicate his life to trying to fix his thing on his neck. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think there might be something to it.
That's really weird.
So that's all I thought phone in, because it's weird as hell. I've got another weird guy. I want to tell him private. I want to tell him private something else that goes with this, but I want to tell you guests sort of in private. I don't want to say it on air.
Yeah, well, we got to wrap it up here. I'll let you tell him like as soon as we get off here. But yeah, Tony, thanks for coming on, man. And if you can, like, tell everybody how to follow you, when they can listen to the show, how to listen to your podcast. By all means, bro, plug away, because you spent a lot of time with us here tonight, and I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate the invite. I had a blast, and you can find the Confessionals on any podcast playing app. Confessionals, the confessionalspodcast.com. And we come out with a show on Tuesdays. That's a public show. And then on Thursdays, we have member shows. And Rage Against Dystopia is coming up here. I don't have a website for it yet. I'm eventually going to make a website, But if you do want to follow me online for that, the best and only really way to do it is to do it through the Instagram. That's just Rage Against Dystopia on Instagram, and I post whatever I feel like talking about. So, you never know what you're going to get with me, I guess, on that one.
Fantastic, man. And we'll have to do this again too. And you guys, I hope you liked Tony. You're going to be hearing more of him on the Fringe FM, especially tomorrow. We got to get out of here. You guys, thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for the callers, all you patrons for making this show happen, and everybody that supports Lighting the Void. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Good night. Sweet dreams.